While President Joe Biden keeps reiterating that he does in fact want a two-state solution where the Palestinians will have their own independent state that they will have control of, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is actually appealing to members of the far-right Likud party, the party that he's from, of course, for support so he can remain in power despite how unpopular he is, but more importantly, by arguing that he is the only one who can prevent a Palestinian state. That is what he is saying. So we first learn about this through a tweet or a post on X, if you will. So let's go to this. Yonatan Tuval is with the Israel Institute for Regional Foreign Policies, and this is what he posted. So he talks about how this is a scoop. Netanyahu to fellow Likud members, quote, "I'm the only one who will prevent a Palestinian state in Gaza. I'm the only one who can withstand US pressure. I know Biden for 40 years, i.e. I can totally manipulate him and go against anything that he has to say. I know how to manage American public opinion." Do you? Do you, Netanyahu? You can barely manage public opinion in your own country. He is a deeply, deeply unpopular leader. I just wish the people of Israel would stop electing him. But nonetheless, Netanyahu's remarks, according to Common Dreams, fly in the face of the Biden administration's continued push for a two-state solution as the only way to guarantee the long-term security of both the Israeli and the Palestinian people. Now, in a recent interview that I did with Professor Rashid Khalidi, we really questioned how sincere Biden is in pushing for a two-state solution because his actions don't really seem to match what he's saying. But nonetheless, let's, for the sake of this conversation, accept at face value that Biden does in fact want a two-state solution and for Palestinians to be able to establish their own independent state. Now, Biden has given unconditional, unwavering support to Israel's government, regardless of how far right-wing the Israeli government is, regardless of the war crimes that it is accused of carrying out against the Palestinian people. Biden has shown unwavering support, okay? He says this: "To make sure Israelis and Palestinians alike live in equal measure of freedom and dignity, we will not give up on working toward that goal," meaning a two-state solution. Okay, well, your homeboy, Prime Minister Netanyahu, is bragging about how he can manipulate you. And so I want to get into the details of what he had to say. Netanyahu reportedly also told the Likud lawmakers, okay, and this is reporting from the Times of Israel. Netanyahu reportedly also told the Likud lawmakers that the Biden administration did not want Israel to launch a ground incursion in Gaza and did not want the IDF to enter Gaza City's Shifa hospital, where a Hamas command center is allegedly located underneath. We're still waiting on that evidence, okay? Netanyahu reportedly boasted about having gone against the US wishes in both of those cases. Yeah, how about you Americans shut up, send us the billions of dollars in military aid, and we'll move on with our lives, okay? That's the message here, which is infuriating as an American, okay? As an American with an impotent government that provides cover for anything Netanyahu and the Likud party wants to do. So US officials took this embarrassing moment to further humiliate themselves, okay? So they see what Netanyahu had to say about the ground incursion and how the Biden administration wanted to prevent the IDF from doing the ground incursion, and here's what they said. Two US officials speaking with the Times of Israel made no such indication that the US opposed Israel's operations in Gaza, as Netanyahu suggested. Rather, Washington pushed for the IDF to ensure the protection of civilians, which of course they have not been doing, noting that they principally support expanding the ground operation into southern Gaza, as long as civilians are accounted for. So remember, southern Gaza is where the Palestinians residing in northern Gaza were forced to evacuate to for their safety, as Israel intensified its airstrikes in northern Gaza, demolishing buildings, demolishing homes, mosques, churches, hospitals. But the airstrikes continued in the south as well. Let's be clear about that. And they're planning to intensify the airstrikes and the ground incursion in the south, where there is an even more densely populated situation because of the fact that somewhere between 2.3 million to 2.7 million Palestinians were forced to evacuate too. So how exactly does the Biden administration purport to protect Palestinians in a situation in which we're supplying them with 2,000-pound bombs and we're providing cover for them as they indiscriminately bomb Gaza, a densely populated region of the world? It's gonna be impossible to minimize civilian casualties. The Biden administration knows that. And instead of looking at what Netanyahu is boastful about, how he's bragging about manipulating the Biden administration, going against their wishes, you have members of the Biden administration looking at those very comments, those very statements by Netanyahu, and they're saying, oh, no, we never went against Israel. No. We never said we were against the ground incursion. In fact, we're in favor of him expanding the ground incursion in the south. Embarrassing. Yonah Lieberman, who's the co-founder of the Jewish American advocacy group If Not Now, posted the following on X, further humiliating Biden, and he deserves it. Look, Joe Biden, Netanyahu is spitting in your face. He doesn't take you seriously. Are you gonna keep hugging him in public, or are you going to finally end the blank check and hold him accountable for his words and actions? Yonah, my guess is no, Biden is not gonna do anything to hold Netanyahu accountable. Netanyahu, by the way, has been Israel's biggest obstacle to peace, and we need to be clear about that. It's probably one of the reasons why he's so unpopular among voters. Because if you wanna know who propped up Hamas to begin with, it was Netanyahu. Okay, so throughout his career, Netanyahu has vociferously opposed a peaceful resolution and worked to divide Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank by propping up Hamas. This is a statement, direct quote from Netanyahu dating back to March of 2019. This is what he said to his colleagues, his Likud party colleagues in March of 2019. Quote, anyone who wants to thwart the establishment of a Palestinian state has to support bolstering Hamas and transferring money to Hamas. This is part of our strategy to isolate the Palestinians in Gaza from the Palestinians in the West Bank. And what's amazing to me is that as the Biden administration makes the case that we really have no choice but to vote for him, because if we don't vote for him, if we don't re-elect him, Trump's gonna get elected, and Trump's gonna dismantle our democracy. He's a real threat to our democratic process, everyone. He really is. It's funny that Biden makes that case, because if we lived in a country that had leaders that value our democracy and the voice of the American people, Biden would really reconsider his unwavering support for Israel and Netanyahu's far-right government. In fact, take a look at some of this recent polling. According to an August Pew Research Center poll, 42% of Americans said they have no confidence in Netanyahu. 32% said they have confidence in him, and 26% of Americans said they had not heard of the Israeli premier. Views of Netanyahu varied by political ideology, with Republicans more likely to have confidence in him than Democrats. So 49% of Republicans, I mean, it's not even a majority of Republicans who have faith for Netanyahu or support toward Netanyahu. Only 17% of Democrats support Netanyahu. 17% Democrats, the very voters that Biden is supposed to appeal to get elected, to get reelected. So if we lived in a real democracy, the thoughts, concerns of American voters, especially in the Democratic Party as it pertains to Biden, would matter. But very clearly there is a disconnect here. And he's not hearing the American people. He is hearing the insults and the mocking rhetoric coming out of Prime Minister Netanyahu. And he looks at that and says to himself, how can I make it easier for them to access the weapons stockpile that we have based in Israel? That's what he's doing. That's Joe Biden for you. And then he's gonna turn around and shame everyone who refuses to vote for him. Yeah, I don't comply.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.